Hey there, and welcome to another video. This is Kevin, also known as AKAAWOL, and in this video I'm going to try to answer a question on how I decide what patterns to make and what colors to use. Primarily going to try to address the patterns portion in this video. I'll probably cover colors in another one. So early on it was always about experimenting. I had created a bit of a folder. A lot of my friends would probably remember this. I used to have a binder that had these black and white Xerox copies that I was making of all my different bracelets. It was before there was color copies. So I was creating and just experimenting as much as I could and trying to come up with as many different kinds of patterns as I could. This is long before there was internet, so there was no outside inspiration. It really came down to experimenting with the color and experimenting with the pattern. Eventually I kind of noticed that I could take graph paper, turn it diagonally, and that's how I came up with like the one that says Deadhead. I basically use some color pencils. It's not a actual color copy here. That's use some color pencils to kind of try to highlight what it had looked like. It was not easy. Just honestly, it was not easy. But I enjoyed the creative aspect, and I wanted to create this portfolio to be of as many different things as I could come up with. So I was changing up stuff. I was coming up with various things. Some patterns led into other patterns. This bracelet was basically a replica of something that somebody else asked me to fix for them, and because theirs had been worn for so long. I found it interesting, and I thought I would like to actually try something different. There was part of what was happening in this design that led to the next one. And in this one, you can't tell, again, because it's black and white, and I couldn't even tell you what the layout was. But this was a rainbow. It goes over, it repeats itself twice. It's probably, I'm guessing, maybe started on maybe purple is what was on the edges, and then the lighter colors, I couldn't tell you anymore. But it was for some friends, and it is related to the previous image in the sense that part of that pattern came from it. But then I worked out that it could be more complex and more, I don't know, troublesome, I guess. So I worked out this one. That was beginning with change for my designing. That led to, this was my personal bracelet. I had taken apart the knots up at the top, so because I planned on actually trying to sew this to leather, and so that way I could kind of take it on and off. It was really huge, but it was meant to help me with getting sales. That was when I was going out to the Grateful Dead show in Wisconsin at Alpine. So my decision on this was basically get noticed. People see with this, they're likely to think that either you make bracelets or you know somebody who does, because back then, no, there weren't a whole lot of people with such things. Early 90s, this is exploration with the new color copiers. This was beginning of Kinko's, and going over to Kinko's, paying $1 or so to get a copy. So here we're looking at patterns that are really being dictated by the color. Previously you were seeing patterns that were being created for the sake of the pattern itself. Sometimes if you have, say, like a fade, some of those other patterns would not really kind of go over as well. So there are instances where, maybe one dictates over the other. Okay, so in this image we have the links, and you can see that obviously you needed to have a certain number of each one of the colors in order to actually make this work. I used contrasting colors primarily to really show that it was a link. If I had done it instead of, like, say, how you have the red and the blue, if I had just done it in different various reds, I think that the imagery that I was trying to create would have been lost. And that's why I used a neutral as the colors that were in between on both sets here. One, I put the darkness on the outside. I tried it again with the darkness on the inside. Again, that was about really trying to see what could be accomplished. Most of my work really has been just an experimentation in where could I take the art, what more could I do with it, how could I make it more intense. These ones was all about trying to create the same link effect, but how small could I make it and still really kind of keep that illusion going on. And you can see it's about probably as small as it's going to get, but it turned out all right. I mean, this is what it's about, is trying new things, make yourself excited about the art. This one was really just I think I started with that middle in mind, this jewel shaped thing, and then take it from there, try to make it exciting, make it really pop. So that was something. I don't know. Yeah, that was a little bit different. Okay, this one, another experiment in the notion that it would appear as though it's two bracelets, but in fact that is actually one bracelet. I kept the left hand side as sort of even with itself, so there's like a bit of a symmetry, I think. And no, maybe I did kind of come into it a bit, but where they join, the bracelet stuff from the left hand side has to stay to the left, the stuff that's on the right has to stay to the right. It's a little bit difficult to keep it straight in your head. The bit that really will kind of throw you off is where they join together. It adds one extra row to whichever side. I thought I'd put it to the right hand side, but now that I'm looking at it, it does appear that actually kind of cuts in a bit to the one on the left. So I'd really have to examine it up close. I think I've already sold this bracelet, so kind of too late for that. I could redo it over again, but save that for another day. Next one, crazy complicated, trying to create sort of a stained glass look. How did I get inspired by this? Probably just, you see somebody else's bracelet, or you see something and you're like, gosh, like to have a go at it, want to try my luck at the symmetry. I like the fact that there's a very distinct thing happening in the very middle of the bracelet, and that it's exactly from that point mirrors itself on either side. That's for me, that's a big, huge challenge. That's I'll see a lot of bracelets that started out great and then kind of ended up dying partway through because they didn't really plan out like how long it was going to be. So sometimes it's a win or lose, sometimes it's all in the planning. It really depends, but that's, to me, is one of my challenges. If I want to say if it's a success, this is what I would really base it on. Another thing I guess that motivated me with this was I really thought a bracelet like this would be quick to sell, but it's a lot harder to do. I mean, there's a lot of knots there. It was a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of checking my notes and making sure that I was doing it right. So You know, I'm sure if I was selling that for $5, I would sell them all day. But yeah, you just can't do that. It's just way too many hours involved. Okay, so this next one, this is, well, I guess it was just a challenge. The notion of having one color on one side and the other on the other. So this was just really trying to see how far I could push myself. And an interesting note was that if you look closely, you'll see that there's little dots where the two colors sort of come in the middle, a little space in between. And I could have made that all either orange, or I could have made them all blue, but I thought staggering it kind of showed that I was fully aware of what was happening and taking a complete ownership of that. And yeah, I think that turned out kind of cool. I think I was pretty excited about that. So that was, how did this one, why did I choose it? It was just the challenge. It really was just see what I could do, what it would turn out like. Okay, this next one. This, again, another crazy challenge. I wanted to keep a shape that shows up quite frequently in a lot of my other designs, and then have the outside part of that just seem sporadic or, you know, random-ish. And I think I really nailed it there. Okay, so there's this one, and its counterpart, this one, are similar families. It's about trying to take and really kind of mixing it up a bit, trying to create this sort of keep an element that you're familiar with, and then make the other element more chaotic or different or changed or whatever, however you want to describe that. Again, I really, my choice for making stuff comes from trying to see what can I think of, what can I do that's not been done before, what sometimes though, okay, let's take a look at this next one here. This is similar to something else I had seen. I had seen where somebody had done a fade from one side to the other, and I thought that was pretty neat, but I wanted to see, could I take that element and alter it? So I put a diamond in the middle, and so it's going one direction, you know, from the top, and then at the bottom it's going the other. So again, it was just find elements that make you a little uncomfortable, or see a pattern that's never been done before, and then make it happen. That's probably my biggest motivator. Okay, so this bracelet, the love, this one I seen somebody had it on Instagram, and what I suspect they had done was they had found maybe part of the pattern online or something. I'm not sure what their story was, but in it basically had started at the top of the bracelet with the VE, and it drove me crazy. It's like, wait, that doesn't make sense. There's enough in there to make it spell love 3 times over, but you know, it just didn't. I didn't like how theirs had turned out, and so I set out to put him in the correct sequence, and so there is my result. This is what I made of it, and that's how I chose that pattern. This one, I was looking to create a Celtic-like design with multiple colors that I just thought it would be nice to, again, experiment with something a little bit different, use up some colors that weren't necessarily going into anything else. I really didn't, there was nothing on paper for this one. This really just came out with, okay, started with that top diamondy bit or whatever, and had it kind of going over and under. By the time I got to where the reds were joining and the yellows were joining and then the blues were joining, I already in my head was like, yep, there it is. I'm going to go ahead and just make it repeat that, that whole sequence over. When I did it, I hadn't quite realized how the blues, come from a different side, and how the over under thing would be such a mirroring type effect. But I really enjoy how it came out. If you really just put your effort into these things, if you just try to push what you know, I don't think you'll ever have a problem coming up with a pattern or a design or something, because there's all you could very comfortably make the same old things that you've done before. But if you are stuck and trying to figure it out, I think the easiest thing is, where do I start to feel uncomfortable? Yep, and then go attack that, make that a thing. And at that point, yeah, you'll find that there's a whole lot more out there that makes you uncomfortable than things that you've already came up with. So I hope that helps. I mean, it's my progress. This is my way of dealing with all of this stuff. So I'm not sure that that's necessarily going to work for everybody. It's not a cookie cutter kind of thing, but it's how I process it. It's how I come up with my things. And with any luck, at least a few of my listeners and people watching this will get something out of it. All right, till next time, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I'll see you again. If you enjoyed this video, do click like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you have any questions you'd like answered in future tutorials, leave a comment below. For more on friendship bracelets, visit AKAAWOL.com. Also, be sure to hit me up on Instagram at AKAAWOL. Thanks for watching, and don't get your strings in a bunch.